I will entertain a motion to go back into open session.
I don't think I can make it.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Kyer, we have a second by Cole. All in favor, say aye.
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 Oh, it's a roll call.
Oh, sorry, roll call,
Am I still
vote,
allowed to-
please.
You will, yeah.
Weinbrenner,
Here.
Wendell,
Yes?
Ryan,
Yes.
Haskala,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Kyer,
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes, motion carried. We are now in open session. All right. So,
No, it isn't code.
let's see. I will entertain a motion. Clerk, could you read the motion as it stands?
The complaint against Daniel Wendell is valid in that he violated the code of ethics by telling members of the public that he was a sitting council person who implied preferential treatment from them by virtue of that position.
Do I have a motion of support?
I think we said.
And in the second paragraph, it is Daniel Wendell is censured for violating the code of ethics.
Thank you. This motion includes the censure.
Was it supposed
Do I have a motion of support?
to? She doesn't have
I will make that motion.
We have a motion by Cole.
Second.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Casca.
Koskela? Koskela. We have a second by Koskela.
Madam President, can I
Yes.
ask one question? Is my last name spelled correctly on the paperwork?
It will. As amended, it is.
I want just to make sure I want to make sure everything's on board. That's all I want to do.
Thank you, Councilman Wendell. Any further council discussion? Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ryan,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Weinbrenner,
Yes.
Haskala,
Yes.
Kyer,
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes. Motion carried. I think we're on to staff reports.
You're right.
All right, Madam President, I don't have much for you today, except for...
Thank you.
I have, for the review of all council, they have a paper copy of a draft version of the incorporation of the Village of Holly, Michigan into a home rule city, just a information paper that I want to base a presentation that will go forward on. I've already gotten some feedback on it, and we're making some corrections. But I wanted council's input to look over the next weeks before we get into the August meeting, where we can do like a more formal presentation. What will be included on this? I will have more numbers, specifically, what it looks like in this document. It goes through the background. It goes through the basic structure. It talks about pros and cons, the timeline. It talks about home rule city versus a charter township, kind of giving some of those comparisons. If there's anything that council would like me to, also as a frequent asked questions, if there's anything that council wants me to clarify, focus in on, let me know. Also, and again, I'm going to clarify some of the numbers in there, update that. I'll also work on making this prettier and creating a one sheet that isn't 13, 14 pages long, that kind of just is a document that anyone that doesn't want to read this can just look at and have a, this is why we would be considering looking into this. So if there's any points that council wants me to work on or make better, just let me know.
What can the council offer that would really help get this off the ground and running?
I think probably a lot of it would be, we're going to be, the messaging is going to be the most important thing. And sometimes based on conversations with the village president, with other council members, sometimes I don't have the ability to bring it down to a level that someone that doesn't work in municipal government can understand. And so when I am maybe presenting it too dense, that giving me, all right, bring it down, be it to more understandable for,
So layman's terms.
We don't need your book learning here.
yeah, so just, this might be, and a lot of the history too, if there's history or things that, that you hear the public talking about, this is something that we need to add into this document. And again, this is just a draft right now. We'll have a more cleaned up version for you. And if this is something that council decides to pursue, we're gonna have to look at, getting real professional, like, I understand this pretty well, but getting someone in here that is, that knows the legal ins and out of this, so we don't mess up, because we want to do this on a tight timeline if we're gonna do it. And so making sure that we have someone that can walk us through every step, and also that we are marketing and messaging it so that everyone understands that we're maximizing public engagement on this process and all of that. Because, again, this could be huge for our community, and, we want them involved, we want them to make sure they're part of the process and this whole thing, is if we choose to pursue this.
Is the consensus of council? Consensus of council, yeah.
Last year in the summer, didn't you guys hire a professional service to start looking into it? Do we have any information from them?
Did we hire anyone?
Or did you
I don't think we
ask
hired
them to
anyone,
start
no.
looking into it?
No one was hired that I recall.
No one was hired.
MML provided a presentation to the committee, I believe, that both Councilman Ryan and Councilmember Costello were on. I don't know, so usually with those presentations, because I actually reached back out to them and said, is this something that MML would come back and you do another presentation? They said that would be about $2,000 to do. I don't know if that presentation is worth, spending, having another expenditure on, since we have all of that information, or if we should just get someone that is like, how do we actually execute this? Like, how do we go forward and, do these things, rather than talk about the history of it?
I might still have my presentation that they gave, like.
I have copies of it, yeah.
Okay,
They
good.
were able to give me copies of it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like 100 pages.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't necessarily hired, but I thought like you guys.
We had some
asked
input
someone
from
to,
old
like, look
documents and,
into the finance, like how much it would cost us.
Yes.
yeah, we had some initial investigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had initial investigation, yeah.
Did we ever get results from that?
I don't think the finance.
I don't think
committee
they ever
met.
did
I
it.
don't think it was the finance committee. I thought it was like our professional services tasked with that.
No. No, we never hired anyone.
I have not seen any results of that. And so
No. So I think execution is the way to go. What do you guys think? Just consensus, not a vote?
No. Because right now, I don't think we should consider anything until we get our finances handled correctly.
Okay,
This is, I would encourage you, Councilmember Wendell, to read through this, because this is part of the process of getting our finances.
I was, but I'm just saying, I don't wanna try to become a city or a home city if, as a village, we can't even.
Why don't we just like ask that at the next meeting, have everyone have time to go through the packet you just gave us, and then.
My plan is, as people have questions, because I want a lot of these questions to be answered about what the financials would be, and this would allow me a little bit more time in order to, I've got some historical numbers, but this doesn't happen very often. And in fact, almost all of the municipalities, it's happened like 8 times in the last, since 2020. 2000, and since 2000, it's only happened a few times. Because most of the municipalities our size, there's about 94% are Orty cities. So there's only there's 2 home rule villages of our size, well, us and another village, that remain as a home rule village.
is that other village supplying the services that we're supplying too?
I would have to do a little bit more research and find
Unsure,
exactly
okay.
what they do. But Milford, who is the same size as us, that's a home rule village.
And
or
they
similar.
don't supply
They
police
don't.
and fire, the
The
township does,
Yes.
right? So,
But we're not comparing apples to apples, we're comparing apples to oranges.
and we're explaining how we're different. So they only collect 7 mills and we collect 11, plus now a special assessment of 4 because they don't supply police and fire, and that's how they can survive off less, plus their property assessments are much higher than ours.
Yeah, so when we're pulling in maybe $1.7 million,
They're pulling in
$4
3,
million.
4, yeah.
Essentially, so.
I mean, I
and
would
not
love to
having
sit down
just
and
my-
have a meeting where you could explain more of it to me so I'd understand.
Yeah.
it.
And so, I just wanted to provide this as a read ahead.
Let's go back to the consensus. Shannon, what's your input?
Consensus on what?
Moving forward
Yes.
with cityhood. Daniel says no.
Oh, no, I
Amber-
changed that to, yeah, as long
Yeah?
as we get more knowledge.
More input, yeah.
More input, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Amber,
Yeah.
Thomas?
I think we should wait till next month so the people that didn't have prior knowledge of it can at least read the packet that we were given today.
What would happen on the next agenda if we moved forward?
It would just be a presentation. It would be a presentation with timelines, like where we would have to, like, what these, the time hacks would be. And perhaps we might have a resolution to proceed, and what those things would be. So if council wanted to proceed, you know, that's something we can,
I would say that, let's make an agenda item next month. I was critical of the township for not making an agenda item, and they just put it during the meeting. So I would hate to be following in what I thought was a mistake, so we could say right now, do we want it on the agenda next month?
Make it an agenda item,
Next
make it
month,
informative,
because-
a presentation.
Yeah, just make it an
Like,
agenda
I
item.
could, but I wanted to see the consensus of council
Yeah.
too. Buster, what's your thoughts? You've been quiet.
I think we ought to go forward with it.
Okay.
Put it on, on the agenda and also for the presentation.
Yeah, all right, we'd like a presentation, we'd like some input, we'd like some numbers, we'd like whatever you can give us, and then we can, if there's something to vote on there, going forward, there's something to vote on there. We're not voting on anything today.
And we'll have this in the document library for residents to see then?
we can, but I didn't know how much we wanted to do a working draft until we had,
My personal take is if it's presented to council, that we should have something out there. So if we're reading it at a meeting, I think we should be putting something on the web.
and that's,
Personally.
nothing's being voted on.
Yeah, correct.
So if, it would be very similar to if I were to, I just wanted to be clear with the process with everyone.
Yeah.
But it'd be very similar to me emailing it to everyone for their input. But rather than doing that, I would rather do it in an open session where I'm
Okay.
presenting the document to everyone.
I see that.
Yeah, I just don't want, I don't want someone to find that, and find that and say, and hold us to something that, that maybe I put in there as far as my, like,
Misinterpretation.
presumption of, the council's intention.
I think the reason I bring this up, I think there was, I can't remember exactly what the item was last session or a couple of years ago. There was something that it was the Marijuana Act, that's what it was. And if you wanted to review the Marijuana Act, you actually had to go in person, and you couldn't take pictures of it. For some reason, I don't know, it's an open document, so why couldn't you do it? So I was like, that was
weird.
That was our village that did that. So you can come in and view it, but you can't take pictures of it, we're not having a digital copy. So I was a little,
I have no problem though,
Well, if this is gonna be on the next agenda,
Yeah,
it'll be in the agenda packet,
It will.
so it'll be up a week ahead of time, right?
yeah, it will be available, yeah. it'll be
Yeah.
available a week
Okay.
ahead of
I
time
don't-
for everyone
Okay,
to review.
there we
I
go.
don't think we want to put it on this website right now.
I'll
Not
just
right
put it on
now,
the
no.
agenda a week ahead of time, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Very
no,
good.
this will 100% be part of it.
Yeah,
I
Okay,
just,
okay.
I want to,
I mean, if someone wants it, they'll FOIA it, so.
because messaging is so important on this and making sure that we're clear, so concise, that everyone's on the same page, I don't want to, I want to be clear and transparent with the process that we're following and not think that we're doing things behind the scenes, but also, I don't want to have some miscommunications out there because.
Or have errors in here, for instance.
Yeah.
If there's a rough draft here and it's something completely inaccurate, then I understand that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted council consensus on this, sure, I could put it on the agenda myself, I could. But I wanted to see it, is cityhood even worth pursuing? And it sounds like everyone's at least interested in learning more. I know it's been shot down a million times before. I've shot it down before because we weren't presented with enough information that I felt was necessary. And I think we're in a different situation now. I think that we've got some good information, and I think it could solve some financial issues for us too. So I think we should pursue it, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't alone in that, and I value your guys' input, so.
I appreciate that.
All right, let's go forward with that. Do you have anything else for your,
Nope.
any other staff? Nope, okay, Shannon?
So I do, I'm not sure how to go about this. One, HIA does not meet in July, so I don't have a report on my committees there. But I would like to see on our next agenda a creation of a job description that is assistant DDA manager / assistant manager, something. I think that what we did was no reflection on Ms. Hillman. I think it's a job change, and I would like to see that. I know I myself can't put it directly on the agenda, but maybe two of us or April can throw that in there. But I think that we need to move fast because I do think that their testimony up here without having a DDA director since September is horrible. It's not something that we had our hands in, but we do need to rectify it. It is a crazy thing, and I think we are creating a job that is, of my opinion, if we could have a job description for August, that we could maybe vote if that is a creation of a new
Or
position
even
or
sooner
not.
and have a special meeting so we can get a
Or
director slash
sooner,
assistant manager
absolutely,
faster.
absolutely.
I'll
But I
second
think
your
that
motion.
that needs to happen before that next.
There's no motions right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's my report, but I do
So
believe
should we
that
have,
that
like, a
needs to
consensus
happen
to have?
quickly.
There
And
would be
work with
some
the
changes, obviously,
DDA
because
To, come up with a description.
Oh, I mean, I'll tell Tim to put it on the agenda. As far as, what's the process for the DDA involvement look like? That might be a Gildner question.
Well, they need to be consulted and just talking about those details. So, I can talk to Tim about how exactly maybe that happens, but if it's gonna be a collaboration of sorts, well, then we've gotta involve it.
And
Absolutely.
personally, I think it's gotta be a collaboration. I mean, I've heard talk of it being a separate entity and the DDA being its own thing. I mean, I think that's completely wrong, and we should all be working toward one common goal, and that's to make our downtown better, that's to make our whole village better, that's to make our lives, our residents' lives better, I think. And let's bring it back. Let's get one person that can really do that. Oh, one other person, or two other people.
one other point of that would be, I would need some clarification on, because as it being a village employee now, then it would be under my purview of hiring with, or making a recommendation to council approving that appointment. So, we'd have to kind of figure out the,
What changes when it's partially DDA
yeah. like,
director, yeah.
We just had like a combination together.
Yeah. For example, if we had a candidate that we liked, DDA didn't like, do they have a veto approval of it? I mean, or. such,
I think
because
we
it
have to
could be-
respect their input, just like we, are looking into things. I think that goes both ways with collaboration, period, so.
I'd like to see if there's any, I don't know how to word it, legal, state, federal, other precedents set for something like this? Like, what is the veto power? What is the input? Is it a split vote? How does that look? What's that look legally? And then ethically, we're going to have our own
Sure.
considerations as well. But we need to know our overview legally to hold us accountable as well first. And then we can set the rest from there as far as preferences that also maintain that legal piece. Any more closing comments, Shannon?
No, that was it. I want to see it move quickly.
Okay, and I do want that on the next agenda, and I do want the legal input for that if possible by then. Daniel?
Well, I got, the Historical Committee hasn't met in a while, because we haven't enough on the agenda to meet, but one of the sentences I guess I'm getting from a lot of them and myself is that we're not playing together in the sandbox very well with the village. The village departments, the village building department isn't kind of working with us, and we're not kind of working with them when it comes to downtown improvements. They're letting people just put any windows they want inside buildings, and they're not letting us review the things first from what I've gathered since I've been put on that commission. So, Tim's giving me a weird look like, what are you talking about over there?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I'm just like, that's what I just keep hearing, what Carlos kept saying, and a couple other ones that said, if they're not listening to us, why do we even have it anymore?
I had a long conversation with Tim about this today because I got a similar report from Commissioner Grosvenor. And number one, they have created a plan going forward in the future to maintain the historic requirements. And then going backwards, they have to make some tough decisions about, so some people have purchased buildings that things were changed on
Oh, I
without a
agree.
proper permit. So how do you get these new owners to, pay for that without, and some of these things are going to be very expensive.
I'm thinking, when I meant that comment was that going from this point on, anything that gets changed has to be followed. the proper-
That situation's resolved, I think, with the paperwork changes that Tim has made. Now, going back, have
That's
fun,
a different
have
thing.
fun, have
Oh,
fun
no,
with
I'm
that.
not jumping in that boat,
Yeah.
trust me.
You're on that committee, you're part of
I
that
know I am,
decision-making, so
unfortunately.
have fun.
And then, just for myself, because we did have a closed meeting, everything else, what sanctuary is just, I got a discussion to me, correct?
What?
Sanctuary is I just got a discussion. I'm not removed from anything.
It's like a vote of no confidence from council. It shows that we don't approve of what you did, We educated you, we're
And
telling
we don't
you,
want you to do it again.
this is a great big warning, please don't do it again.
Okay, that's how I wanted to make
That's
sure
what
I
it means.
clarified it. I just wanted to have 100% clarification.
You got it. Any further closing comments?
No, that's it. I hope,
Am-
well, one more. I hope everybody had a great holiday weekend.
Thanks, you too. Amber?
Yes, so Parks met and just talked more about, budgets now that we actually passed our budget here, as a council. We had a great 4th of July fireworks at Lakeside. There was a lot of people there, a lot of great volunteers, and I appreciate everybody who came out for that.
I heard the grand finale was the bomb.
Right. The funniest thing about that is I've seen it on a couple things that's like, whoever this company is, hire them again. They're the same ones that we've had for like 8 years. So,
I was like, can we talk about the fireworks that are shot out right at the water?
Yeah.
so yeah, let's, just clarification there. We talked about in this whole ethics thing, potentially changing some things, so I would like,
Ethics to
have-
meet?
To have an ethics meeting, and review these things that came up in this meeting today.
Would it be ethics or a charter and ordinance, since it's an ordinance?
It wasn't the ordinance, was it an ordinance piece we were looking at, or was it an ethics piece?
Ethics.
It
Was
would
it an
probably be an
ethics-
ethics piece that they would make a recommendation to the ordinance one.
So go from
So it
committee to
was an
committee
ordinance,
council.
it was an ordinance piece?
I think, yeah, I think it's, that you wanted to change, I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah, that was 3 hours ago, dude.
I think it was
Yeah.
just a review of,
Actually, I don't, it was actually not necessarily an ordinance, I think it was within the bylaws we wanted to specify.
because Mr. Gildner stated that it wasn't, it was, our ethics is the way we wrote it. And it's
Public
nothing to do with the state of Michigan.
Okay, does anyone remember the specific subject?
I think it was the public hearing.
Public
Yeah, the
hearing, the
public
public
hearing
hearing
part.
piece, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
'Cause she
So,
didn't have time.
now does that fall under ordinances or just ethic bylaws?
Well, you adopted the code of ethics by an ordinance. So whether you throw it under the ordinance committee or the ethics committee, I don't think it matters.
So if we do it through ordinance, though, it'll apply to everybody? All the different planning, finance, ethics for procedures? Well, no, because
it
you
wouldn't
said,
change it wouldn't necessarily change the scope of it all. I'm just saying that when you adopted the code of ordinance, you did so, or I'm sorry, the code of ethics, you did so through the vehicle of an ordinance. It was an ordinance adopting a code of ethics and laying that out. So if you're asking, like, what subcommittee would take it up, it could be ethics, it could be ordinance. That doesn't change the scope or who is subject to it.
The specific items were the public hearing clarification, which I still think we need to have some conversations because some valid points were made about whether or not, what happens if it's a closed session? You know, if they request closed session and it's a public hearing. And that's something that Mike and I talked about while the discussion was going on. And then the other item was about notification procedures, about if someone is the subject of an investigation, when should they get, what is the timeline for notification if they are going to be, you know, if they're going to be a topic of
Ethics.
discussion.
And on that point, I'll mention, I didn't want to say it when it was raised, but I was on vacation Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday. I received her number Wednesday. So, you know, could I have, I suppose, done it on vacation? I suppose I could have. But I called her Monday when I was back, and that's the best that I could do. So it was a valid point, but
Extenuating circumstances, yeah.
Vacation time's vacation time. There's a reason why you take it.
yeah, sometimes things don't always work out to be ideal, and we're human.
And then just finally, I would like to piggyback on Shannon's thing, I think, and Jim's comments as well, where I feel like this board wants to be supportive of our DDA. It makes a stronger community to have strong businesses downtown, so I don't want anybody taking this sideways, even though they will.
Okay. Thomas?
So I prepared two different things to talk about tonight, but I'm only going to stick to one just because of how late it's getting and time constraints. I can talk about the other one another time. So our last meeting we had, I was caught off guard by April being able to just turn down what's on the agenda when it's been motioned and seconded on there. And, because I thought I had a thorough understanding of our council policies and procedures, and to me, that didn't make sense. And the way I read it, and I still stand by that, it should have went through to at least discussion and then a vote, that you have the power until 5 PM that Wednesday to decide what's on it. And then after that, council can amend it by having the motion and second, and then the vote of the council to edit. So I'm not sure if I'm wrong, I'm misinterpreting it, or if it was misinterpreted by our last meeting, or if we can have clarification on it. Because in our charter, the president doesn't have power to veto any of our votes. And if she controls absolute control over the agenda, then there's no reason to even need to have that in the charter at all, because there'd be no need for a veto, because only the stuff that the president wants discussed is on the agenda.
Now, I had thought that 2 council members, not only do I put things on the agenda, but I thought that 2 council members could also approach Tim and have him put something on the agenda. Councilman Cascella actually said that our bylaws don't say that after all. And when it came to amending the agenda, I thought that was a whole separate issue. So, Gilner, what do you got?
Yeah, so I was at that meeting, but I don't recall the specifics of this, so I'd like to look into it, because I'm not really following about what exactly happened and what the complaint is.
So, he went, Thomas,
Well, yeah, the motion, doesn't really matter what the motion was. It's going forward with future motions, because that's all moot by this point.
well, we followed legal advice on that one, because Thomas had made a motion to
Review the contract.
review the contract.
Daniel seconded it.
Daniel seconded it, and then we asked, does anyone remember how I asked it?
I just, like, after he seconded it, then you were like, the president,
Something along the lines like if you have power to deny amendments to the agenda or something along those lines.
Yeah,
I don't
'cause
know the exact wording, but.
Because it wasn't on the agenda already, right?
right.
So it wasn't on the agenda, he wanted to add something to the agenda.
So I think we had a speaker say, Robert's rules says we can do that. Absolutely, Robert's rules say we can do that. So
Right.
when this happened, I looked it up too. Well, Robert's rules says we did that. However, we as a council gave away that right when we signed in and we voted in our rules and procedures. Our
Right,
rules
but
and
I just believe it was being misinterpreted during our last meeting.
So I don't think so personally. So I think the way it says is there's 2 members that can propose it, but ultimately the president has the final say, no matter what. I don't think it says the time.
And for me, I believe that's too much power for one member of the council to have.
I agree.
Because it limits the amount of legislation everybody else can do.
It disrupts business, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if there are 2 people that should want something on there, we should be able to amend the agenda at that time, I think. So, and I think that was a carryover from previous, so it's not, I don't believe it's something that we decided to put in.
No, it was already in there, but the way I read it, it was that we could just
Now,
do
I
that.
thought there was a piece of public notice where you couldn't add things that you were going to vote on to the agenda last minute, but am I incorrect about that?
That only pertains to special meetings. So at special meetings, you can only act on those things that are on the agenda unless all members of council are present. At a regular meeting, you can add and subtract your agenda items.
By majority vote of council.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
us. We can't do it. Our bylaws say we cannot do that.
If it wasn't in our bylaws.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to look at that. The only thing I'll say about your comment is, it's true, Robert's rules only applies if you adopt Robert's rules.
Which it's adopted for anything that's not in our council policies and procedures.
Right.
So we just pick and choose Robert rules, whichever we
Well,
want.
we can have
Well,
Robert's
Robert's
rules. and that be
rules is a
more-
guideline.
Yeah.
Yes,
You don't have to adopt it, because there's lots of things in Robert's rules that aren't applicable to different councils and boards.
I'm just saying, open
I
meeting.
mean, Robert's rules is, that thick. And it covers everything from, congressional committees all the way down to township boards. And so, yeah.
Little cheat sheet, that's what I got, that's the simple, fast, quick, nasty version.
But is that something then, like, is there an ordinance committee who can?
There's charter and
whatever-
ordinance.
Okay, so
Yep.
can they, maybe that's a committee that needs to meet to tighten up some procedures
They can, yeah, so
As
if,
Council policy procedures, I think it'll just be council amending our policies and procedures again.
So in theory, we could do it right now if we wanted to. We would say, I'd like to make the motion to amend the agenda. So we would say, I'd like to make this motion, and then we're done.
Are we past that point, seeing how we're in council comments and then in
I haven't heard
new
gavel.
business?
I don't think since you've adjourned, that's up to,
Okay.
I'd have to ask.
unless it's not currently covered under our procedures, like you said, though, because then we couldn't.
Well, we could if you allow it.
Oh, if I allow it. That's right. It was
So,
up to the
But
president.
Robert's
Yeah, that's
rules
right.
also says we can also appeal her decision, so we can override it. But
And I think
I think it's like a super majority, so 5 members.
I think in the effort of transparency, we just wait personally. I mean, we're waiting for other city and stuff. Why are we gonna change rules when nobody can weigh in on them? So,
Well, I think it would be nice to have it on the agenda soon, so that way we could actually legislate stuff if we thought of something important and we want to bring it up and vote on it during a meeting.
So I think,
I'm gonna follow up with Tim after the meeting and be reminded exactly what the discussion was last time. And
I think it was about Amy Hillman.
it
I'll
was
be
to put,
prepared,
yeah.
I'll be prepared to either offer something before your meeting or at the next meeting on that very point.
Okay. Any other closing? Closing comments?
I nominate the president to go to bed.
Buster?
Yeah, they had the first dam committee on
Dam
the
committees.
7th, and I didn't happen to make it, but I was talking with Danny tonight, and at our next council meeting and that, there we'll have the minutes and everything, and he'll give a agenda on exactly what's going on at the next meeting.
All right. Kaskala?
so first I wanna thank, everyone here. I think at times I was a little exasperated that we were spending so much time on the rules and procedures. But looking back on that, I think everyone really provided different insights and we worked through it. So it took a long time to get to good discussion, so I'm thankful for that. So if I looked exasperated, I was at a time, but as I'm looking back, I'm like, we did a good thing. So thank you. I also want to thank Danny at the DPW for all of his work with the flower gardens. So he's been helping me with that, offered flowers up. I didn't end up going with any of his flowers. I did also reach out to Ms. Stouffer regarding the recording. So I was not actually here last week. I was out of town, but I got sick while I was out of town. I wasn't able to drive the 2 hours back home. I was planning on driving the 2 hours, but I couldn't drive it back home. So I emailed Ms. Stouffer and I was like, well, there's no video recording. I think we need to have a video recording. I brought this up in the past, saying we need to have a policy or something like that, saying we need to have a video recording. And I was really upset that we didn't have the video. Well, come to find out, there was a video, so no harm, no foul on that. But I think what we should do is we should come up with some type of policy to, when I say we, I mean staff. Should come up with some policy that it gives the instructions of how to start streaming, how to set it up. So if it's over here on the computer, and then we can have a so for instance, the person that's in charge of the record can say, I know how to do it. I'm making the record.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
The Holly Village Rule and Procedures book.
I thought you were getting up because you forgot to turn the video
That's what I thought.
camera
Oh,
back on.
So then maybe we can publicize it, because I was told there were no instructions. So whatever the case may be, there need to be some policy set up so everybody that potentially could be in charge of recording knows how to record or stream.
One of the issues on that, and I kind of mentioned it in my comments, was that meeting wasn't actually noticed by the clerk's office, who usually sets all of that stuff up. So the meeting actually wasn't properly noticed in accordance with our policies. So we didn't know about it until Lisa saw Linda sliding it into the thing up there. So we were never notified of it until it occurred.
No, I said.
So.
Oh, there was no 19-hour notice, or 18-hour notice.
Okay.
Okay.
I got some other things. Finance, so we've had a few meetings, we haven't, since all the other items we've been discussing here, we haven't really got into the water and sewer. There's been discussion of all the balance that's in the water and sewer fund, and it's can cover everything. So I think one of the numbers I saw, we need $20 million for the repairs of what the accounting firm needs. So we need $20 million to make our system not explode, essentially. So we're trying to figure that out. We have some talented individuals down there, I think, that are coming up with ideas to how to make it better for our residents and users of the water system. Did anyone happen to catch the township meeting last month?
Yes.
Yeah. So did they reach out to anybody regarding the charter township? No? I really wish we could work with our township here. It was a big surprise just to see a last-minute agenda item change to put charter township on, and then everybody weighed in immediately on it too. So I think we could really work together, because there are a lot of residents, we all know them, we're all friends with everybody here. So I think it would be in everyone's best interest. I'm really excited to see this document you put out, because they're going through and actually making the adjustments and making sure there are no errors, because I think there were some errors in the township's presentation, and I think it can be a bit, not scary, but if wrong stuff gets out there and it's perpetuated and it's just gets wheels and it goes. So I think that's troubling. One person I am going to reach out to is Miss Ryan, Treasurer Ryan, because I learned some things from her on the last meeting. She seems very knowledgeable on the topic, so I'm going to email her.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I met with a representative from Senator Slotkin's office today and discussed a lot of Holly needs. They wanted to know how they could help, so I gave them an extensive list after acquiring input from every subcommittee and department. They were mostly interested in the mill pond, so Tim, Lisa, and I expressed concerns with Eagles orders. I also took a kayak ride with a couple of residents on Sunday to get a real visual of the berm and the pond and the view and the value the pond offers our community. So we're going to continue our efforts to restore the dam. And the information that we gave over to Senator Slotkin's rep, Akash, was everything from, a ladder truck, police needs, parks, bathrooms and play structures, to roads, and so much more. I will be issuing presidential proclamations in the near future called the Citizen Recognition Award. I already have 2 in mind, and I will consider candidates for the following reasons: community service and volunteerism, acts of bravery, positive examples of citizenship, contributions to community improvement, humanitarian efforts. I'm open to public nominations. You can feel free to recommend someone, and I'll be happy to review their eligibility. The cost is the price of the plaque, which is to be determined, but I expect it to be reasonable. We'll have a template preset with somebody. Today's agenda included much of a review of the subcommittees I sit on, so there is no need to revisit those topics. But there is a bit more from DDA I can update the public and council on. I'm currently working on a purchasing policy based on the villages and with legal input. And we are currently working on rewriting the bylaws, as they have not been updated in some time. So thank you to Hillary Algeyer and Nancy Rebar for your time and effort in getting that going. Events and planning maintenance are all in the works, so thank you to all the DDA members for those efforts. Something I'd like to see from, I don't know how, Gilner or Tim, education for the DDA, their duties, what is their role, what is the relationship to council. I know that Linda mentioned today that I think it's right in their bylaws maybe, that they're supposed to have education within their first year of being on that board. And I was under the assumption that that was their duty, the chair's duty or the DDA director's duty. I'm not certain which one there, to provide that. But considering their lack of leadership and their obvious need for education, is this something that the village can guide them on? What can we do about this?
So my first conversation would be with Tim Colnick, who is here from Oakland County Main Street, because they are like our first line of response with everything DDA. And so see what resources currently are available. tailor some kind of training, but I think it would be beneficial to tap into that resource as well and provide it. We really want to specifically outline what that training should entail.
Now,
I do know, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I do know when we passed our last ethics ordinance, we did bring that to our subcommittees, because I remember bringing it to Parks. So somebody should have brought that to DDA, but I know that they're newer too, but it should have been brought to them like it was brought to the other subcommittees.
I know that Hillary has mentioned it to the DDA during meetings before that, you know, she wanted her training, and I piggybacked off her and kind of said the same thing, and it hasn't been tended to yet, but I don't know who is supposed to take the lead on that. Is it the DDA? Is it the village? And where does the financial burden fall? Is it the DDA budget or the village budget?
I would have to look into it, but my assumption would be training of their officials would be under their budget.
I agree. That's how I interpreted it as well. I just, but I also extend a little leniency since they don't have a director. So, not for their budget perhaps, but for taking the initiative. As you could tell, they were putting that onus on us, and I don't think that that's necessarily appropriate, but I think that, I don't know. Tim's pretty overextended as it is. So I don't think it's that difficult to identify training seminars for the DDA as a chair or an interim director.
And
Or,
we can also, my understanding is too, that you could bring someone in to train. You don't have to send everyone away.
who does it fall upon to hire someone to bring them in?
The villages, I mean, they have a budget.
Right. So as, like I said, as you could see, Linda was saying that we haven't provided that to them yet. She was putting that burden on us tonight.
What if, like, they were mentioning ethics, what if we meet as a council with them and the DDA board, and we explain ethics to them?
And they can explain their needs to us as well. I would love that.
I mean, and then it's on us,
Yeah.
but like,
I think this is an overarching issue beyond the DDA, though. I think that, I don't know if, for example, Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, HDC, if any of them have been trained on
No.
some of these items, yeah. And so, or trained on their job proficiencies that they're supposed to be doing, which we, you know, and I know that the HDC, Planning Commission, has reached out before. So we need to do better, as a staff, identifying and onboarding procedures for new council members, you know, and then like what training is required or for this job, and, you know, how can we most efficiently get it to them? It just hasn't existed in the past. But it's something that has been brought up and that we need to kind of prioritize as well. So that's on, you know, our procedures within the village, but also how to get them to be proficient in their job if they're on the Planning Commission and the HDC. You know, like what are we specifically looking for? Daniel mentioned some of the HDC concerns.
Can we offer education on, is there something we can do to offer them education on their role and their relationship to council? Is that something Gildner can offer?
Yeah, of course. I've done that with, I've done training for like ZBAs and planning commissions, how to run effective meetings, what are your, your roles and your duties. I'd be happy to do it with DDA. It's a little bit different if what you're talking about is what is your relationship to the village? You know, how do you work together? What are your differences? But if you'd like me to do that, I'm happy to do it.
I would. Could you please convene with Linda and Jerome and get it on the books?
Sure.
Thank you. Hey, that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Gent.
Cole, Wendell, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.